Lizardmen are tough, axe-wielding opponents effective against our knights. They can inflict critical strikes and almost always do so against lance-wielding targets, cleaving through even the toughest defense with ease. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Play Shining Force 3. This is Battle 21, the one that I'd prefer to pretend does not actually exist. This is the easiest fight in the entire game, by a significant margin. And you may notice that since our last video, our characters have got just a smidge a little more powerful. Yes, this fight was designed for one reason and one reason alone, to allow you to farm enough gold to get as many damn mithril weapons as humanly possible. And that's exactly what I did, clocking in around 11 hours of farming on this map. As unfortunately, well, there's one way of putting it, I suppose. Unfortunately, the other way of putting it would be absolutely freaking awesome. Put all of my characters at exceedingly high levels in comparison to what they were earlier, which makes them immune to pretty much everything. Including these monsters, which quite frankly should have left a long time ago. This battle will be short, this battle will be to the point, and this battle will get very messy for the opposition. There's a few things that I do want to show you on this fight, though, just because we can mess about a bit. Now, I've got a nice spell coming up that we actually learn here. Grace is actually lagging behind a little bit in comparison to everyone else. So I'm not one of those people that can just sit there constantly casting heal over and over again. It bores me. Killing things is more fun. That's the Aura spell. That's, as you might expect, an area of effect heal, and it becomes vital in future battles. It starts off with a 5 square range, and you can get an even larger one that drains mana incredibly quickly. Now that's Frank. This is the only time you are going to see him, because I refuse to use him anymore after this fight. I'll show you the silliness, and that'll be it. Now this is Spark Rank 2, which is huge. And Masculine is quite good at it. It's not the biggest Spark available, but it's pretty good. And somewhat devastating. You'll be happy to know that Masculine is far from vulnerable with her new level ups. Now, Sybil and Dantes both have some incredibly good damage. As demonstrated, 85 with the lightning there from the Arc Halberd, which is one of the new weapons we got. In my opinion, one of the most overpowered weapons in the entire game. And you'll get to see even more silliness a little bit later on. Now, I'm also happy to say that Eldar is really performing well, having received a significant upgrade in the form of the Cosmic Wing. Now, very competitive damage-wise, and also relatively tough. Unfortunately, Pen is lagging behind a little bit. However, I did manage to get him up to rank 3 in Beaks, which gave him some additional attack power, makes him a little bit more dangerous.
Prepare to die.
And it also taught him Pen Dynamo. Now, Mask Monks now against Knights, our Knights particularly, since we've just learned, rank 3 in Lancers there with the Mega Charge. Yeah, they're dead in one hit. It's that simple. Those Mask Monks are no longer a threat in any respect, so we really don't have to worry about them. And indeed, we're not going to have to worry about them. They do disappear in a few battles' time, and we will see some more powerful varieties a little bit later on. Now, the red one at the back there is the boss. If you can possibly believe that the boss of this level has 50 hit points. He is an absolute wimp. He's a priest who can use Aura 2 and Tornado 4, which is quite dangerous, assuming you actually let that happen. If you let that happen, well, you suck at the game. It's as simple as that. The others are merely cannon fodder, and we will treat them as such. Now, there's a little hidden item here. I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to find that if you don't already know it's there, but we've seen enough of those throughout the game to realise that that's just the way Shining Force 3 rolls. Now, the one annoying thing about this map is the choke point, as you might imagine. Unfortunately, it takes a little bit longer than it should to get over there. Now, I'd like to show you something, if I can remember which button to press. The Arc Halberd has a usability, and that usability is Spark level 3. Which is one of the coolest looking spells in the game. And looks even cooler in scenarios 2 and 3, where they add some extra lighting effects. Doesn't do a lot of damage because, well, even the usabilities on items are affected by the magical ability of the person using them. Sybil ain't a caster, therefore Sybil using magic ain't gonna work out so well.
Prepare to die.
Now, as if a normal lance charge wouldn't have done the job, or indeed a standard hit would not have done the job, let's just overkill it anyway. 83 damage from a supercharge. You don't want to see the mega charge. Well, maybe you do. Some of you may be worried that this is going to make the next few battles trivial. Not so much. The next battle is a lot trickier. There's a few new enemies introduced, and there are a lot more lizard men, which are the only dangerous enemies on this map, because they can do an awful lot of damage and tend to crit against knights almost all the time. There's a lot more in the next fight, and there's a few new enemies. Plus, we have a far more unpleasant boss to deal with. I just want to show you this for the sake of it. No reason why not. 21 damage. There are a few interesting specials that you rarely, if ever, see with the casters, and some really bad voice acting from Noon. Hoping to show you that a little bit later on. Kite, while lagging behind slightly, also has ridiculous defense thanks to receiving a white ring, which is plus 10.
Rise, Phoenix.
Yes, indeed. Now, the Phoenix spell is something that we do need to work on. It can become very powerful, but it's not so great at the moment. He needs some magical support, to be quite honest, and he can also learn the rank 2 version. But he just learned rank 3 in the sword weapon as well, which is going to make his attack even more powerful, as well as buff his magical ability. The sword is quite unique, the Phoenix sword which he received, because it gives rank A in both magic and in standard melee attack, which is incredibly rare. You'll see a lot of our heroes learning these rank 3 special abilities, and generally speaking, they are incredibly powerful. For one reason or another. The level 3 abilities tend to do more damage than level 1s and 2, by a significant margin. Either that, or they give an incredibly beneficial negative effect on the enemy. Right, this is the dumbest thing in the entire game. I just got to point this out. There is an ability or a spell called Berserk. Now, the Berserk Claw that I gave to Frank allows you to use this and cast Berserk on the person wearing it. Now, what does that do? Well, it increases your attack power significantly, but you lose control of your character, and he can potentially attack your heroes. What a terrible idea. And indeed, we'll see just how bad an idea using that is a little bit later on. Ooh, foreshadowing. Thankfully, you do not lose any friendship levels if you die to a berserked character. That's because the entire mechanic, as realized by Camelot, is incredibly BS. As to why it's even in the game at all, I really do not know. And there's an air dance, which is the level 3 special from Sybil, one of the coolest looking specials in the game. Toss him in the air, and smack. Down he goes with 82 damage. That horrendous overkill even yielding a reasonable amount of experience for a character that's already over-leveled for this stage of the game. You want to see something else, silly? I'll try that. Melting the Masked Monk with 88 damage. The Dragon Lance and the Arc Halberd, which are the two lance weapons I'm using, are both equally ridiculous. But I'd say that the Arc Halberd wins out due to the Spark 3 usability. Now, can we get Pen in there, who is sadly underperforming, but with that extra attack, I reckon he's still going to be reasonably effective. Plus, we can get him an upgrade very, very soon indeed, in the form of the Ibaru Ring. Another cursed item that gives plus 15 attack. Now, remember when we used to run Eldar away from Wyverns? Yeah, we don't need to do that anymore. And that was her level 1. She's learned a new ability called Hell Dive, which we'll hopefully get to see later. And she's also one of the only characters who gets a special piece of voice acting for that.
Take this.
Now, that's a special piece of voice acting that I could have done without. But that is the Soul Blast, which actually sucks a ridiculous amount of hit points out of the enemy. Not something I would risk using, to be honest, considering it barely ever works. But it's quite nice nonetheless. Now, if it does seem that I'm power gaming this level, well, this level was designed to be power gained. I am something of a power gamer, but I don't want to do it too much because it's not all that entertaining. However, I think the mass slaughter on this particular level, which is otherwise incredibly dull, is absolutely entertaining. Thankful to see O'Bright really getting into his stride there. And yes, the enemies are actually scripted to run away, just to artificially lengthen the level for no apparent reason. I'm sorry, that's great. I've never seen that before. I will confuse you by turning backwards! Seriously, why did they bother? I assume the idea of this level was, oh, the enemies may be incredibly underleveled, let's make them run a gauntlet. And here's Berserk! And it's terrible, because it does things like this! You know what the worst thing is? He doesn't even break Berserk after that. He's probably going to kill somebody else. Not that it matters, because we don't lose anything by it, but come on. Why would anyone use that ability? Now, there's something that's mildly threatening. The Lizard Man will pretty much do a crit every single time on a Knight character, and Dante's defense is incredibly high, and we're still taking a lot of damage. So, as you can imagine, a large number of Lizard Men is quite threatening. It's about the only thing that's threatening. But there are only 2 Lizard Men on this level, so yeah, not going to happen. Now, can Eldar take down 2 Wyverns? Well, that's possible. It depends. The Wyvern has a high chance of using a special ability, and 2 different special abilities that he can use, both of which inflict fire damage, which is not so easily deflected by the defense stat. As you can see, the Lizard Man's defense is relatively high. Able to survive a hit from Sybil. Nothing else on this level can, incidentally. Now, just in case we get 2 specials in a row, which would kill Eldar, I'm going to back off slightly. And this is a new item that I got for Eldar called the Attack Ring. And, not surprisingly, it casts Attack. And it raises the attack stat. Who would have thunk it? Time for some more wrecking, I feel. Get the Lizard Men out of the way, since they can actually do damage. You will note that the crit chance against the Lizard Man, bearing in mind that it is the hard counter to a Lance user, is relatively low in comparison. Whereas if you attack something that is inherently weak, well, it takes an awful lot of damage. Now, that over there was a chest with the Magna glove in it, which is one of the 2 gloves that Irene has. She's not in our force at the moment, because we had to make a choice to take Frank along, who will, trust me, that won't be happening again. The Magna glove is a reasonable item, and you can check the thread for its stats. Now, I've changed Khan back to Cestus, and you might find that a little bit odd, but you've got to bear in mind that his Claw skill was actually only rank 1, whereas his Cestus skill is rank 2. He does scale off a bit here. We've seen him be an absolute wrecking machine in the past, but you have to bear in mind that that was because he had a significantly more powerful weapon than anybody else in the Force. That is no longer the case. The Cestus, the Glove, and the Claw weapons are statistically inferior to the majority of other weapons in the game, and as such, the cost of forging them actually reflects that. It's not to say that they're not good weapons, but in comparison to swords, lances, bows, and indeed most other things, they're just not quite up to par. What they do is grant a number of different stats and some very interesting special abilities. Now, really, we're just going through the motions here. Well, that's always nice to see, isn't it? 58 damage on the counter. Sadly, only 1 experience for an entire kill. And Frank's going to go slaughter something else on my force. Oh, I wonder what it'll be. And another crit! How wonderful. Just what I always wanted. Well, I suppose Mascarin had to die some way. At least it was that. I don't know about you, but I think it's about time we end this foolishness. Thankfully, the Wyvern going in after Frank. And the second Wyvern going in after Eldar. Again, not too worried unless it's a special, which it isn't. The wing, as it does with every iteration, grants some defense, and in this case it's +4. And Eldar, having leveled up, is now significantly better. Let's end this silliness. Slightly unspectacular tornado, but enough to kill the boss in a single shot. My name is TotalBiscuit. Let's just forget this battle ever happened, shall we? I will see you next time with Battle 22. Significantly more interesting edition.